Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me in the back? Yes, yes, yes. All right. If I start to go in and out or move too far away from the microphone or get a little too soft-spoken, if you will just wave your hands in the back, I promise to lean in and speak up. We have got a very short presentation for you today, just leading into the December settlement to give you just some information. I'm going to go ahead and start it off, talk a little bit about the settlement department, where it is now, where it'll be moving in the future, and then I will highlight a couple parts that are going to be changing for this December and then changing for the future. Ryan is going to bring us home by going through the timeline of events and then highlighting a couple more areas before bringing it to a close. We will do our best to go a whole hour, but we're trusting that you won't hold it against us if we end this one just a little bit early. Okay, so it has been a few months since the last time I got a chance to address this room, and there have been a few changes. But if we get right down to the brass tacks, the settlement department of the auditor's office by December will have lost 60 years of experience. Not the office, just the 3 people in the department made up 60 years of experience. By December, we will have the first new settlement director since 1986. We will be replacing that 60 years of experience with 2 20-year-olds and a 30-year-old. And I'm the old guy now. The good news is I have not yet started to lose my hair, which was something I was worried about at the early presentation. Okay. Now, it is clear that we are not that same staff that you have grown accustomed to working with. We're not the ones who have spent the time with you on the telephone, who have helped troubleshoot some of your problems, but we still have the same charge. This is still our same goal, to be able to provide the same levels of service that you have grown accustomed to from the auditor's office. At lunch, Patty was sharing with us the time that Dan stayed on the telephone with her, helping her understand how to do the excise tax cut by hand the first year that was being done. I imagine that if we polled the room just by a quick show of hands, how many people have had an opportunity to reach out to the settlement departments to get that one-on-one help to better understand what we were doing or why we were doing it or what was being required. I imagine that the majority of you would have a story similar to the one that Patty shared. We hope that we'll be able to provide that same level of service going forward. Okay. Now, this was not meant to be a eulogy, but more of an introduction, a fresh start with 3 new people in the department, and I'm telling you that it is a very exciting time for us. While I'm with the auditor's office, I promise that we will do 3 things. 1, we will make mistakes. 2, we will change everything. And 3, we will provide as much new instruction as possible. Okay, let me try that again. 1, we do promise to make mistakes, right? We are still pretty green in this process. We are going to make requests. We're going to make requests that don't necessarily make sense, that we wouldn't make if we had a little bit more, if we understood the process a little bit more. But if I learned anything in kindergarten, it's 1, that nap time is mankind's greatest achievement, and 2, making mistakes is how we learn. And so we ask for your patience as we work our way through that process. Now, 2, the promise to change everything is a legitimate promise. Now, I will level with you. If 1 year from now we're able to provide the same level of service that they were able to do last year, it'll be a huge triumph for us. But if in 2 years we're still working through the exact same processes, it'll be less of a success. When we look at the new members of the settlement department, part of our strengths are technological. What we're able to do with spreadsheets, with calculations, with formulas, will help save us time where we will be spending more time doing research. So when I say we're going to change everything, we're going to change everything where it makes sense. I mean, we've got no desire to transfer more work back to the counties any more than we have to transfer work that can be done at the counties down to the state office. And we are smart enough to realize that we are inheriting a process that is working and has been working quite well for a long time. So what we're looking at doing is just finding ways that we can improve it, cut down on some of the data entry or the data re-entry, and get us to the point where we're actually having an opportunity to review the numbers and not spending all of our time either adding the numbers or just trying to get the sheets filled out in triplicate, in quadruplicate, or some combination of that one. And then the last part where I said we were going to provide new instructions, I was serious about that as well. As we take a look at the manuals that we've provided, the guides, the handouts, places where the information makes more sense to the writer than to the reader, where you can let us know that one. We can help him. We can improve our own documentation and the information that we are sending out that we hope will help. Improve your ability to just communicate with us, to better understand of where we've identified issues, where these issues are coming from. Okay. All right. Now, there is no replacing last year's staff. They were too seasoned, they are too experienced, they've been at it a little bit too long. But everybody has a first day, and this December will very much be our first day. I wanted to take just a little bit of time here and talk about the new staff. Joe Jacoby, who you will start to see email from in the very near future, has spent on Friday was his 4th day in the department. And now he is on his honeymoon. He is spending time in sunny California. Like Suzanne said earlier, I cannot believe I couldn't convince him to bring his new wife to the conference to introduce her to all of you, but I guess California wins. Joe has spent the last 4 years working in the legislative branch of government. He is very passionate about government working well. And what I'm hoping is that his unique experience in the legislative process, how ideas become bills, how bills become laws, will help us to better interact with the legislative branch. So if there are things that we do want to change, we've got someone who spent 4 years on the inside to help take us through that path. Now, Ryan, who is on my left, who will be speaking momentarily, has now spent 12 weeks in the department, and he keeps coming back. So I'm thinking that he's beginning to enjoy it. Now, some of the things that he is doing technologically he has to explain very slowly to me so that I understand them. But we've already started to feel the extra time that it is saving. He can simply do things faster than we've been able to do in the past, which doesn't really save time as much as it does give us an opportunity to use that time for other things, like really going through it. We contacted about 9 counties earlier this year when we realized that the fines and fees that were on the 105 didn't match the fines and fees that we actually received from you. This was something that has historically been done by the department, but we were able to do it in what we were hoping was a more efficient manner, and issues like that, data analysis, is something that we were hoping to be the focus of the new settlement department. Now, okay, and so with all that said, that is the introduction. Let's actually start the presentation. I wanted to take you through 3 points that are going to be different from this year's settlements or follow-ups to points raised for the December settlement for last year that we're going to see again this year. Now, the first one is, okay. Now, the December settlement forms, we have been reviewing them for the last couple weeks, and on Monday, they were posted to the FTP site. So all the files that you'll need all the blank files you'll need are already in your county folders, waiting for your cutoff dates and for you to begin the calculation and the data process. We will no longer be accepting forms from the vendors that aren't identical to the state forms that we are requiring. Now, that is kind of a big point. When Lao first saw this slide, they contacted us directly. They have sent us copies of all the forms they will be providing, and we're beginning to go through our review process. Now, where this change in policy is coming from deals with how we reviewed the December settlements in the past. In the past, as the submissions were being made, we were able to sort of form a line. Then taking the next one available, we would print out the forms, we would evaluate the forms electronically, just go back and forth and validating all the cells, making sure that the totals matched, making sure that the data points matched, making sure that where information was being reported, it was consistent throughout all the documents that were being submitted. Now, sometimes when we were juggling email, juggling phone calls, juggling meetings, that those settlements were able to be turned around in a day. Sometimes it went a little bit longer to the week. Sometimes as we found mistakes but continued to review the settlement, it would push the amount of time that we spent reviewing them back further and further. This year, we are trying out what we are affectionately referring to as the skeleton key, right? We will be doing a much more computer-based analysis of those forms. Now, part of the reason why we need those forms to look similar is so that we can put in the form regardless of the county and let the system do those calculations for us, do those matching, take advantage of those dimensions of review that are laid out in the settlement work checklist for us. But it starts with making sure that we're receiving the same pieces of information from the same, from all 92 counties that will be submitting. The advantage, if this works, is that we may be able to cut down our return time, our review time, from weeks or days to minutes or hours. And so you could get it back the same day with a detailed explanation of these two cells need to be the same. These two totals, you reported total A on this form and you reported a different total on this one. We can provide more clear instructions for where we're finding mistakes in a more timely manner. Now, we will work with the vendors. We are more than happy to take a look at those forms in advance. We don't have to wait for your official submission to make sure that the documents that you're going to spend time to fill out and send to us will contain all the information in the places where that we're expecting to find it. So that's a little bit of the background that's going into that decision. Okay. The next change or continuation is that the quietus worksheet is a required form. Before the auditor's office will print those 105s and send them to your office, we want to make sure that that quietus worksheet is filled out and completed. Ideally, it's a tool, or in theory, it's a tool for the county auditors and county treasurers to make sure that the money that is available for distribution matches the amount that is actually going to be distributed. And prior to the auditor's office approving that settlement, we just want to make sure those totals match. So whether that sheet gets submitted at the same time as your packet or as your December settlement, or you wait for us to work through the December settlement before submitting it, just know that before it's all said and done, that quietus worksheet should be considered one of the required documents that need to be filled out and sent to our office. And finally, beginning in calendar year 15, the 2008 and prior year delinquent tax deduction will no longer be considered a required form. We have seen over the last couple of years that there was less and less information being on that one, so beginning next year, we're just going to take it off. Now, if your county is still electing to track that information, if you still need the omitted homestead credit and res PTRC worksheet, you'll just have to contact our office. We just won't post it out onto the FTP site as we have in the past. Okay. All right. So with that said, that will be that's sort of the conclusion of what I had. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, who's going to take you through a timeline and then highlight a couple more areas. Unless there are any questions. Not yet. The question is, do we have a list of the vendors who are compliant with this new requirement that their forms match the state forms that we're using? The only vendor that's contacted us is Lau, and that was last Thursday. This week we'll be following up with the other ones just to get a copy of just the blank forms. I mean, we're not interested in the data on the inside. Just need to make sure that the columns and the populated rows are consistent with the files that we'll be using. In some cases, there are very simple changes between the two of us, just simply renaming it from, so that the two forms are consistent. If the changes get any more complicated on that one, we will make sure to provide a detailed list of any of the changes that we'll be making. Okay. With that said, let me turn it over to Ryan, who will take us through the second half of the presentation. Now, this is whether he wants to admit it or not, seems a little bit nervous. So just like as kind as you guys were to me when I was up here for the first time in the spring, I asked that you extend him the same warm welcome. Without further ado, Ryan Petter.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Good afternoon. So, as I was introduced, my name is Ryan Petter, and I graduated from Purdue University in a master's in economics, agricultural economics, in December 13. And I worked for a year at the Illinois State Auditor. So just started in August with the Indiana State Auditor. And, oh, yes. Thank you. All right, so we've gone through, is this loud enough? Am I good? Too loud? A little bit too loud. Here. No. All right. Okay, this is a timeline, and I'm going to take you through a timeline of just a couple of the things that we thought were some major landmarks that you should be aware of as we go through the next couple months together. So I want to help you through this, and our office suggests that you begin the settlement process by taking a look through the December Settlement Instruction Manual. And the manual has been updated in 2014. It's a little bit formatted differently, and it's available through both the Auditor of States website and on your BMV's FTP site. Unless your vendor has obtained, these forms, although similar in some instances, include updates that have been made to facilitate the review and reporting process. So once you have completed the forms, we're going to have you use the December checklist to verify the information is complete. This checklist walks through very similar checks that we're using on our review, and the checklist was put together previously in Excel. We've converted that to Word, and so it's hopefully a little bit easier to use. It used to be 30 pages. It's still including all of the same checks, but now it's 15 pages. So it's half as long and hopefully more readable. It's a long document, but if you take the time to review all of the checks that are included in that December checklist, I'm confident that you should have your submission should be pre-approved the first time through, which is the goal. Then you'll submit your forms through to settlements@auditor.in.gov. On your PowerPoint slides that we printed off earlier, it has settlements department at auditor.in.gov, but the correct email address does not include the DEPT at the end. So be sure that when you submit your forms that they're going to settlements, and that will go through to Fred, me, and Joe. So we'll all get that. It's a group email. So this is a list of all of the required forms. Each form isn't required for every county, and that's based on the credits that are in your county. Again, all these forms are posted on the FTP site, and an explanation for the forms are in the settlement manual. Once we receive all the required forms for your county, our office will review your settlement. The only exception is the quietus worksheet, and the quietus worksheet uses the totals from the other worksheets, so it can be submitted after our office completes an initial review. Then the Auditor of State will review and either approve or deny your settlement. If errors are found, our office will return the entire settlement to your county along with a detailed explanation of the problems identified. Once the documents have been corrected, you will need to resubmit your form, and the new submission will go to the end of the line. I'm confident that it goes without saying, but AOS shouldn't be the only group reviewing these documents. As we get closer to beginning the process, we ask that you would take time to review your internal controls regarding the county level settlement review. Once we approve your settlement, we'll print 2 copies of the Form 105, mail them both to your office. You should then sign one, keep one, and return the other, or sign both, keep one, and return the other to the Auditor of State. And finally, the last step is to submit your remittances. These amounts should compare with the information on the settlement forms. They include excise tax allocation, 2008 and prior delinquent tax deduction, the state portion of the property tax replacement credit and homestead credit, and the settlement fines and fees. November 30th balances of the fines and fees are to be remitted by December 31st. Verify that you send only the state portion of the fines and fees. Please see the December settlement instructions for additional information about the remittance of these fees. So the goal is to have all of this done by December 31st. And that's a couple months from now. So lots of things to take care of. Settlement checks should be distributed to taxing units within 51 days after the tax due date to avoid paying interest. In other words, if taxes are not paid within 51 days, you should use that equation to calculate your interest payments. And this has been explained in previous years in settlements. The equation just takes into account the interest rate that you're bearing on your investments over the course of the period. So now I'm going to transition to a few highlights of issues and things to remember. Some counties have circuit breaker adjusted rates. In June, counties with circuit breaker adjusted rates use those to distribute taxes. The same rates that were used in June should be used in December. The counties with local option income tax operating levy freeze must use the DLGF equivalency rates plus DLGF certified property tax rates to distribute excise tax. And CVET and FIT distributions, as usual, will occur on December 1st. Excise tax allocation worksheets have been placed in each county's folder on the FTP site. Dan went over these worksheets in detail last year, and again this year. They're a great resource if you're interested in with more information for that. The cutoff dates, like he mentioned earlier today, are either September 30th or October 31st. Be sure that you're using a 6-month period, so if you're using September, submit in March and October and April. There was a pretty significant delay in processing the August excise information. We've been working closely with BMV to cut down on the amount of time it takes for that information to be available. And BMV is confident that September, that information will be available more timely. Since the December settlement cannot begin before the cutoff date, we've been receiving questions for some counties regarding changes in the cutoff date. And if you decide to switch to a September 30th cutoff date, that would allow you to begin this December settlement that much earlier, but ultimately it's your decision. Tax refunds are required to be deducted in the December settlement. Some counties elected to deduct June refunds, and if so, be sure that you do not include those refunds as part of the December settlement refund calculation. If your county has a property tax replacement credit or homestead credit, these totals must be broken down by type of credit on the 17TC. Counties with local property tax credits must include in the December settlement the abstract amount less the amount included in the June settlement. Automated clearinghouse is a type of electronic funds transfer. It's likely that your paycheck, mortgage, and other bills are paid through ACH. Our office accepts all payments through ACH, and this method of payment is in many ways superior to older forms of payment. Unlike checks, ACH avoids the cost of printing checks, buying postage, and stuffing envelopes. These funds are transferred securely and electronically, and payments can be made the same or next day. There's no chance for your payment being lost in the mail. And yet we still only have about 20% of county remittances submitted electronically. So it's easy to set up, and unless your county changes bank accounts, it only needs to be set up once, and we're encouraging all counties to go through that process. If your county's interested, you'll just need to contact our office for more information for the 2 required forms, which is the W-9 and another form. So thank you. And again, this is our email addresses. If it's settlements@auditor.in.gov. And I didn't faint, so we're good. Thank you all.